Today's going to be a little bit different than a typical session. We're not just walking through a process. We're co-designing this experience and what it will look like going forward. I've called this workshop Clear Trails Ahead because we're really mapping a journey here, figuring out where things feel smooth and where things get lost along the way. And just to say up front, it works best if we get honest here. Not the polished version, but the real experience. This is how we make it better. Most of today will be interactive. You'll be working with your table group, and I'll guide us through each step along the way. So let me walk through what the journey is going to look like this afternoon. I'm going to keep this pretty simple. We're going to move through like a journey. We're going to start at base camp, getting grounded in who we're designing for. Then we'll move through each stage of the process, kind of like stops along the trail. And then towards the end, we'll zoom out and look at the full journey and identify where we need to improve. So what is design review transformation? Before we jump in, I want to level set on what this initiative is. At a high level, it's about improving how technology reviews happen between agencies and WATEC. Right now, the experience can feel a little unclear, sometimes slow, and not always predictable. What we're trying to do is make it customer-centric, easier to understand, and faster to move through, and obviously more transparent along the way. So, guiding principles today for this workshop. I want you to keep in mind throughout the afternoon, most importantly, is to adopt a customer and agency experience mindset. So instead of thinking, what does this process require? Think of what does it feel like to the person going through this process. It's really easy to default to our internal thinking. We all do it. So just keep pulling yourself back to the perspective of your persona. Everything we do today will come towards a specific outcome. Today, you'll walk through the trail step by step from your persona's perspective. By the end, each table group will have created a future state journey map and identified top improvements for each. This will directly influence how we refine this process, so your input is very important. What is a persona? Each table has a different persona, and this is representing an actual user that goes through this process today. They're all different. Each table is different. As you move through the journey, like I said, try to stay in their perspective, not your role today. If you catch yourself saying, well, internally we do this, I want you to pull yourself back and go back to your persona. This will help us ground the real work, the real human needs of this process, and again, focusing on customer-centric design. Our session was designed all around that process and what the future should look like. And I called it Clear Trails Ahead, co-designing a clearer path. And we had quite a large group, but each table had a persona. So I had these little persona cards. These are real users in the current process today. Each table was different. And so we spent some time getting to know our persona and what their frustrations are, what success would look like in this what's currently called the security design review process, but will in the future be called the technology review. And then we had 4 destinations, all tied to Washington. And we started with preparation at Palouse Falls. Then we went to the Hoh Rainforest for submission. Then we went to Hurricane Ridge for our review. And we ended at Mount Rainier for the decision. So that was all just mapping out what is unclear, what are the frustrations, what would make it better, what tools or guidance for your persona needed during this process. And then we brought it all together for a summit view, created that future state journey map for the persona. And then we did a campfire close where we shared. Some of the themes that came out in the campfire close were there was a lot of confusion about what the process is, where to go. There's a disconnect between teams, so it was suggested on having really clear roles and responsibilities, and then transparency, which we are working on with our future state process. So knowing where you are at in the process, what's happening, who you need to talk to, that was, I think, some of the big themes.